So there's a lot of different interspersed kind of experiences here. All right, now beyond what point is evidential for the next level for a flat heart? Doctors disagree, but it seems that after 5 minutes, we're getting, it's pretty substantial, that if you were to come back after 5 minutes, first of all, it's extremely rare. Some doctors would even tell you it's impossible to have to have heart stoppage for 5 minutes and to report things. One medical doctor says 7 minutes. He's the only one I know that goes that high. He says 7 minutes and it's over. So, a couple of the cases I've got one where there's heart stoppage for 19 minutes. One where there's heart stoppage where actually some nurses went and got this cardiologist and said, hey, you've got to come in here. And they took him into the girls' bathroom, and a nurse had hung herself off from the door. She'd hung herself from the door, and they got her down and started resuscitating her. She had no heartbeat, and that was for a significant period of time. But the best I've ever seen, the longest time, is a person who came back from 40 minutes without heart activity. 40 minutes. And they gave a description, kind of a blow-by-blow, step-by-step description of what happened through when the EMTs came and they were taken to the hospital and what happened in the emergency room. They could tell what happened, and they claimed to be kind of up above the activity watching. I should tell you this, when you talk to people who have had near-death experiences, even with a group this size, there's probably a number of people in here who've either had one or somebody in their family has, because they're fairly common. But oftentimes the person, it's funny, they'll see the person down there, and they act like it's funny. They'll see the person down on the table, and they'll say, look at that poor guy. Looks like he's in distress. Everyone's beating on him. I wonder what's going on. They say, that guy looks like me a little bit. But they don't think of it as being them because they perceive their center of consciousness to be up here. You don't usually stop and look at your hands and say, yeah, that's me. That's what I put on this morning. You just kind of look out at the world. And so they often don't recognize what's going on down there. I should also tell you that when the doctor's resuscitating them, or an EMT or something like that, and they come back into their body, frequently they are very angry. I was having a great time, I was feeling well, what'd you have to go and do this for? I'm not feeling well. Some of them, you can CPR, and with some techniques, you can get a broken rib, or, you could be in a significant amount of pain. Sometimes these people are in pain because of the situation they were in before the near-death experience. All they know is that up here they were peaceful, and they didn't know who that was, poor guy, and then all of a sudden, they're him. And they're watching through their own eyes. To me, the most evidential of the categories is the brain death category. And there's some cases here that I think are highly evidential. There is a cardiologist in Denver, Colorado. He has a pacemaker named after him. He's a well-known scientist. And he has the largest number of near-death cases. He has, this is a figure that's old right now, but at the time of the publication, which was early 80s, he had 2,300 near-death patients who were near-death, 2,300 near-death patients. And of those 2,300 patients, 1,600 of them claimed to have had some kind of near-death experience, 16 out of 2,300. And I'll just stop and tell you that in most cases, the percentage of people who are near death, who claim to have had some kind of experience, are between 1/3 and 2/3. Between 1/3 and 2/3 of the cases. And his sample, you can do some quick math, is pretty much exactly 2/3. But of those 1,600 people who said they had near-death experiences, 57 of them reported near-death phenomena while they were in a state of mind where they had no brainwave activity. No brainwave activity, and many of them reported data that could be observable during the state in which they had no brainwave activity. In fact, many of these 57 people had no brainwave activity for up to 2.5 to 3 hours. I say 5 minutes is evidential. These people had no brainwave activity, a number of them, 2.5 to 3 hours. And the doctor said that many of them reported phenomena that he could that he could check out, things that were verifiable in and about the room. In fact, his assistant, who is a pastor now, but his assistant at the time has cataloged some of this data. The doctor doesn't slow down long enough to do it. He does a lot of open heart surgeries and working many hours a week. And he doesn't catalog himself, but his assistant has. Now, here's a near-death case, a flat brainwave case from another doctor. This is an Indiana housewife, and she was being operated on, and they had her hooked up with EEG, and that's kind of rare to hook somebody up, but she was hooked up, and she had no brainwave activity for 2 to 3 hours. Now, she's not one of the other doctor's patients, but this is a separate case. No brainwave activity for 2 to 3 hours. While on the table, they pronounced her dead. They tried resuscitation techniques, and they were not successful. After 45 minutes of working on her, they pronounced her dead. They covered her with a sheet, and the hospital attendants came in to take her to the hospital morgue. And while they were pushing her down the hall, she sat up. We call this NDE Twilight Zone. She sat up, and they went and got doctors. They injected her with some adrenaline, and she did pass away after that. She had a pretty advanced case of cancer. But she lived through that episode after she was brought to after 3 hours of no brainwave activity. Now, it's not evidential that a person is brought back. It's very rare to be brought back when there's no brainwave activity. That's pretty rare. But that's not evidential unless you have people report activity that can be verified during the state in which their brains were not active. And she talked about the whole process, what happened while they're resuscitating her, her brain, she had no brainwave activity measured on the machine, and she reported who came in the room, who went out of the room. She mentioned a doctor's name who cracked a joke to relieve tension in the room. She told about jewelry that some of the attendants were wearing, and she said so-and-so had this kind and so-and-so had that kind, and she reported this as soon as she was resuscitated. I mean, the reports came immediately. It didn't take. You want to be careful because these stories can get bigger with time, of course, so you want to get reports that are where the data are given immediately, and she gave some of this data right away. Now, my favorite, my favorite case I'll save till later, but my favorite flat brainwave case is, I think, the second case on your sheet there, and it's a little girl from Idaho who was called at the time Katie. This has been written up in at least 2 different journal articles, at least 2 different medical journal articles.